Hi. Boy, you probably were really still kind of reeling
Railing from
over
the last
the
video.
last video. We'll just give you guys a small piece of that. The episode titled, I think we talked about it and made it Ron.
Wrong. Yes.
Um, and in that, what you learned was probably the one of the biggest things that it comes to when it comes to communicating about what this union is.
Mhm.
And what we've been doing is we've been hiding
Mm.
or lying or running or chasing and not telling the people in our lives. And you don't need to go into the part of it that is hard to understand. What you do have to go into is the truth.
Right.
And I believe that's why we've been doing this whole thing of coming out this way, is because there's really a heavy distinction between what the truth is and then what the truth is.
And what we're doing is telling it as the truth as we know it. It's our truth. We've lived it. It's our truth.
It is our truth. And it's not worse than, believe us, we know that not everybody's going through what we went through. But what we do know is there's the truth. And then there is the truth.
So. All right. So, so I hope that you enjoyed the video with Ron, and if you have any more questions, then let us know. We may do that again. But we ended the last video when Lee was recovering from back surgery.
Not recovering.
No, you were still in the hospital. Yeah. And the whole incident happened where I walked away and you quit breathing, and doctors were just baffled by that. And I can remember a doctor coming in, a very well-renowned doctor here in the Cincinnati area, all over the world, I think.
Everybody comes in from all over the world.
Yeah, he's an amazing doctor. And he came in the next day, and he said, what happened last night? And I told him, and he said, I don't understand. And I just told him. He said the nurse's note said that you couldn't leave the bed tonight, that you had to sleep next to him. So they brought me a gurney in, and we built it up, and I had a bed right next to his in the hospital. I love hospital beds for some reason, because you can lift the back up. I love them, but I slept next to him, and it was peaceful, and it was a peaceful 5 nights you were there. 5 nights. And
the next day I walked.
The next day you
walked.
Next
day I walked 25 steps. Now, the surgery that I had was a 2-disc replacement in the lower tailbone section. Was completely crushed. There was nothing there. It was bone on bone. So if you can imagine walking around in just great pain, it was like in your spine, your bone smashing against your other bone. And all the nerves would feel a spark from that. So it was almost, and when he said I shouldn't be able to be walking, she was taking ibuprofen, I was taking ibuprofen, and it was really interesting how that worked out, but it enabled me to do a lot of things. The breathing is part of this thing that we started realizing that there was more to this connection, especially as the months went on, and I told her about what was going on. But it was hard for her to hear me because, well, let's just get you there.
And I was, right now, at this point, I had my husband living in an apartment just around the corner from the home that we owned. Lee was having back surgery. I had 2 teenage daughters and a younger daughter. I think he was 9 or 12 or 9 or no, 9, 8 or 9 or something like that, and a baby boy. And so Lee was coming to my house to recover, and we had already told his brother. And I wanted to, and I got him a lift chair. I wanted it to be very comfortable and very peaceful. I don't know what I was thinking. I wanted it to be very comfortable, and I wanted to take care of him. That's what I wanted to do. But we got home, and days turned into weeks, and I was coming off of my medication, off of the antidepressants that I was taking, and all the medication that they had me on. I decided I didn't want to take it anymore. And during this time, he was on a lot of pain medicine. My teenage daughters decided to have parties. They were just being very inconsiderate teenagers, and they were having parties. There was one particular party. There were 40 kids there. 40 kids. It was down in the basement. Wasn't even a basement. It was a lower level. It was finished. But when I look back at the chaos and the drama and the chaos, it was a lot. I was constantly having to drive back and forth to take my daughters here and there and everywhere, and my son was there, and there were times when it was very peaceful and we were by ourselves, and I took care of him. I dedicated my life really to taking care of you, to make sure that you were showered and fed, and he couldn't function. I mean, he could not function. He could barely walk, and he was on some serious pain medication, so he did a lot of sleeping. And I made sure that he got up. I walked him through the hallways. I walked him around the kitchen. I made sure that I walked him every day. And it was a pretty chaotic time. I'm sure you don't remember a lot of the chaos because you were.
I remember more than I say. I remember being there, and I remember how wonderful you were, because I couldn't use the bathroom by myself. I couldn't walk to the kitchen to get anything to drink. You were constantly there, and she constantly was giving me love. And then she started to do things. So let me give you an example. She had 2 wonderful dogs.
My dogs were wonderful.
And decided to get a 3rd dog, a Dachshund, who loved to bark all the time. So she could tell my love for the dog was just so overwhelming. She decided to get me a kitten, which I fell in love with the kitten.
I don't know what I was thinking.
I'm recovering. Just had a broken spine, that's all. She lets the girls throw a party. 40 people showed up. The dogs, all 3, the kitten, some family.
They were huskies. They were Siberian huskies, so we had to keep them in the bedroom.
The kitten and I fell in love. Everywhere I went, the kitten followed me. The kitten kind of gravitated towards me because I was healing. And really having the kitten there was really a wonderful thing for me, because this was something she did for me. Well, the kitten needed to go into some space because the dogs got in because of the 40 kids that were in the house. And somebody thought it would be a bright idea to put the dogs back there with the kitten, who were trying to get at the kitten all along.
We've dubbed this party.
I'm sorry, let me finish. So in my broken back state, I had to go back and pick up what pieces were left of my kitten and put it in a bag. And I was so heartbroken. I was so distraught. And I was ready to go home. There's no other way to put it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Mm-hmm. My ego was coming back. I could feel it. I could feel that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It wasn't good for my healing. Mm-hmm. And then the fight started. Because she was coming off of her medication. Mm-hmm. I was starting to wean myself off of my medication. I lost a lot of weight. I was ready to go back to work. I mean, I was literally...
I'm going to add that. We've dubbed that day, that's the day the dogs ate the cat. We rarely talk about it.
Maybe that should be the name of this episode.
We rarely talk
The
about
dog ate the cat.
it. The dogs ate the cat. I'm an animal lover. It broke my heart too. It did. It broke my heart. But we rarely talk about it. It's still a sore subject.
It's not a sore subject. It was painful.
I mean, it is for me. It was horrible. His brother had to go clean up the mess.
I did.
And
I went in there with my brother and another guy, and we
mess.
cleaned it up.
It was a mess.
And it wasn't anything nice.
Let's move on. So now...
See how it gets disregarded.
We know.
See?
We know that the dog ate the cat.
So anyway, so I went back to work.
Well, yeah, he did go back to work. The problem was the doctor put him on restriction in this place of employment. Okay, yeah.
So
yeah,
here's
we
the
can't
thing.
talk about that.
Here's the thing.
So,
what we can talk about is that
Mhm.
when I went back to work, I was really pushing myself to a place, and I knew that. And I went back to the doctor. Doctor said, "You're tearing yourself up." And then I said, "Okay, tell you what, I probably got on restriction." So I went on restriction, but the thing was, is as each week went by, after about 12 to 15 weeks, I started to feel better. And when I mean better, for a greater part of my life,
I'm going to have to put a disclaimer in there because you said you were pushing yourself, and that's not necessarily truth. We can't discuss that. However, you said that
I'm talking about pushing myself to a place where I wanted to be better.
Yeah. Yes.
I knew what I was capable of, and I knew where I was going to plateau at.
Yeah.
And my mind wanted to do it, but my body couldn't.
He was he needed to get out of the house.
That's honestly the truth.
He needed to get out of the house.
I kept smelling cat.
He needed to get out of the house. And I don't blame him because it was a chaotic mess. And this is what I feared. I feared the fact that combining these two lives would turn out to be a hot, chaotic cesspool of drama and loudness with two teenage girls. Literally, they're 16 months apart. And they didn't get along in the first place. And then, I've got two younger kids. So there's 4 kids in the home. And he's got 2 sons and they're coming in and out. And it was just all... The good thing was the families were merging. The kids were getting along. Your kids and mine. The families were beginning to merge at that point. That was really the only good thing that was happening at that point. We were beginning to argue a lot over just shit. I was losing the house. My husband had moved out and moved into an apartment, so I was, had the bills by myself. Lee still lived with his brother, so he had his bills over there. He was helping out as much as he could where I was. And it was just, it was a nightmare. I was coming off my medication and you were starting to come off yours.
Nope, I was pretty much weaned off of mine about probably 3.5, 4 months after surgery. I still had sudden pains, but some of those pains I had to really work through. But enough about that part.
We made it through the winter.
We got through the winter.
We got it through the winter and this is 2000 going into 2010.
No, 2010 was my surgery.
2011. Going into 2011. Early 2011. He was starting to stay at his brother's more.
Yes.
And I was starting...
Because it was closer to where I was working, and the drive, because of my back and sitting for a long period of time, the drive to where she was just a bit much.
And at that point in time, we loved each other very much, and we wanted to be together, but it's very chaotic at the house, and he didn't want to be there. And I couldn't break away to go be with him, and we wanted to be together, but I was losing the house. So... here's the best idea we've had. We decided to rent a home.
But we went and looked at a lot of different homes.
We went and looked at a lot of homes, and we had so much fun, and we had so many dreams. But we were still doing a lot of arguing, and our relationship was unstable.
The ego
Mm-hmm.
Our egos were completely.
Yeah.
I would tell you that even though I'd found my place of peace, what I
Okay. Ooh, I thought I'd hit that button. That would not have been good.
no, what we did also find was that even though I found my peace, I did find that when her mind would become activated and would attack me, my mind could become activated and would attack her. And this was a constant battle. What I didn't know was that the reason that your mind becomes activated is because when you're hiding something or when you're lying about something inside or you're scared or whatever emotion is actually coming to you, you will do things that you really probably shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
we went and looked at so many different
we
homes,
did.
and it was great because we knew that okay, you're gonna get divorced, we're gonna get married, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and we started building all this beautiful life.
At
But
this point in time, you still weren't divorced.
yeah, I was divorced in 2010 before my back surgery. Nice try.
No, you weren't. I got the paperwork.
Okay, so maybe she's right, but maybe she could be wrong.
He didn't get divorced till 2012.
You just got divorced, so we'll get there.
We'll get there.
So so
We'll get there. And I'm
um,
sorry, it was 2011. I was mistaken, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there, I promise. We're going to pull out the papers
but
and
we
make
need
sure
to
all
go
the
here
facts are
because
correct.
this is exactly
This is
the sticking
This is
point.
going to be rough. This
Yeah.
is going to be rough.
So,
and I'm going to tell you, we found it. We found our
She
house.
found it.
I did find it.
She fell in love with this house that I told her, no.
We couldn't afford.
We can't afford this. We can't do this. And she said, no, we can do this, we can do this. I'm going to be doing this. You're doing what you're doing. We could do this.
We had a fight.
I said no. I didn't want a pool. I didn't need a hot tub. I didn't need this big house. I didn't need all this stuff. This to me was just no. I want to be something where we're comfortable. We can get married. We can do this. We can do that. We can travel. We can do whatever. But we don't need all that.
Here's
we
the
just
thing.
don't. I mean, I've made a pretty decent living,
Mhm.
and I'd worked hard to and know what I could maintain. I was not willing to go past my bounds, and it became this big, huge ordeal.
It did. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that's very important that a lot of you are probably feeling yourself in. At that point in time in our relationship, I was feeling very insecure with it.
With what?
Our relationship. It was
our relationship or your relationship?
well, yeah. I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there, but I was very much an ego. Still didn't know what a twin flame was at this point. All I knew was I was feeling very insecure about our relationship, and I was feeling very close to losing you again. And I started to panic within myself that I was going to lose him. And I wanted this. I wanted this dream that we had talked about so much. I wanted to be with him so badly. I wanted this dream and I wanted it now. There was no patience. None. I needed this dream to start immediately. I needed this. I wanted it. I didn't need it. I wanted this life with him so badly. The kids were getting along. The kids were loving each other. We became one big family where we loved each other, and there was chaos, but we loved each other. And, me and my husband had separated. A divorce was imminent. He had moved out. He had rebirthed. I mean, he wasn't the same guy. He wasn't the same man. He was a loving, trustworthy, honest man who loved me unconditionally with everything he had in him. And he didn't lie to me, ever. He never lied to me. He told me complete truths. And I wanted this life so badly. I wanted to be with him so badly. We had an argument about this house, and I had called him. And I said, "Where are you at?" He said, "I'm at the house." And I said, "What house?" He said, "I'm out at the house." And he was standing on the deck, and he said, I want this. I want this. And I said, okay, I do too. So let's do it. So, when you when you get a house, you have to put a significant amount of money down, and we didn't have that. I wanted it, and there was no way around it. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was packing up things because we were going to move. We didn't know where we were going to move, but I was packing up things in his house, in his closet, and come across an old checkbook that it was in his name, old, um, from a long since closed out account. And we went to go meet the realtor to rent this house and sign the lease. And um, I don't remember the details about how I pulled it off, but
You told me that your friend, a really
oh,
good
that's
friend
right.
of hers, was
Mm-hmm.
going to
Mm-hmm.
help us with the deposit and that we could pay it back slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, yeah, I'm just waiting for him to send me the money and then we'll go ahead and do it.
That's right.
Still no clue that she had gone into a checking account that I had in, I don't know, 1997. So,
But long story short, he went to work, and I met the realtor, and I gave him the checks. I filled them out, and I signed Lee's name, and he gave me the keys to the house. The owners of the house lived in another country. They didn't even live in the United States. So I'm thinking, okay, we've got some time to come up with this money to cover these checks. That's my honest thought process. That we had time to cover these checks. That when they came back and said, hey, these checks are no good. Oh, I'm sorry, I wrote them on the wrong checking account, and here's a good check. I honestly thought my mind was telling me that it was going to be okay. And we moved into this home, and the kids loved it. The kids adored it, and everything was perfect for about 30 days.
actually, it was longer
About
because the
60
emails came to you
Right.
and nobody else in the
Well, I
house
mean,
knew.
it was nice, and then we started arguing a lot. We started arguing a lot.
Why would we argue?
We argued a lot. Remember the TV incident when you
Why,
took the TV cord to work?
why would we argue?
Well, I'm going to tell you why we argued. We argued because I was hiding. I was hiding things, and that's why we argued. When you hide and you lie, and you're manipulative and you're not doing the right thing, you tend to be real on edge, and you tend to want to blame everybody else for your mistakes. And I was doing that. Any little wrong move you made, I was jumping on you like a fly, man. I was attacking him like crazy because I knew this was coming. I knew it was coming. And the email started coming, and it was about what 90 days. It was a while. It was a really long time before the email started coming and saying, hey, what's going on over there? I mean, these checks aren't right. And I didn't tell him. The emails were coming to me. I still didn't tell him. I still didn't tell him that these people were threatening.
Meanwhile, I'm giving her money thinking things are getting paid.
Yeah, there's that.
And that she's doing things and, the money's coming and, we had the loan that we were starting to pay back. And I'm thinking, okay, everything's great. This is beautiful. But, I don't get why we keep fighting. This should be a wonderful time for us. This should be a wonderful period in our lives. And this should be us coming together and really flourishing the love that I felt in my heart and that I felt in my dreams and that I was seeing in my dreams. Not really realizing that what I was seeing in my dreams was being sent to me from mental pictures that she had to have now.
Right. It
So
got really ugly.
As part of the connection, you can have dreams and you can see things and experience things. And I think I've even shared a lot of that on relationshipreinvented.com and my writing and your writing. We've shared the shared energy of what somebody can mentally see in their head. You can send that to another without even realizing that's what you're doing, or even get the image of what they're thinking or seeing or experiencing. So
I remember walking around this home when you were at work and crying in a panic. And I remember specifically walking in it was a big walk-in closet, and I remember walking in there, and I can remember looking at your clothes hanging in the closet, but seeing a vision of them not being there, and it scared me to death. The thought of losing you at that point scared me to death. The emails were coming. The court order was put into place. I had talked them out of evicting us 3 times. 3 times I talked them out of evicting us. I'll have you the money next Wednesday.
As me.
Yeah. I was talking as you, yes.
And I knew nothing about this.
Yeah. So what happened was, about 3 days before the sheriff was to set out our belongings, I told Lee. I didn't tell him the whole truth. I told him that.
Well, first, my car payment didn't go through.
There's that.
And I went, hey, did you pay the car? Oh, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll do it today. Yeah. And the house was like on the urge of that, too. Mm-hmm. So here I am. Adamantly in the beginning, I'm fighting, we can't afford this, we can't do this. And then I'm thinking, okay, something seems kind of off. But I want to not go there just yet, because I want to explain what happened a couple weeks prior to this. Because I did find the emails, and I was asking her about it, and she was elusive. So I started paying attention to different things. The thing that I noticed about her behavior was changing is because when she had her laptop, she would turn the screen or move it in such a way where I couldn't see what was going on. And I pay attention to that kind of energy because it doesn't feel right to me. So I would wait until she would leave the room, and I started going through her laptop. And that's kind of one of those things where I wish I wouldn't have done it, because I started to get really, really more suspicious. So one time prior, I would say it was probably 10 days before this actually went down, I came home early. Nobody knew I was coming. And Ron was there, and Cameron, and, they were just sitting there watching TV. And I said, well, where's Sherry? Oh, she needed to go up to the store. She'll be back. I'm like, huh? She didn't call, because normally she was leaving or she was doing something. I usually got a call. Oh, I'm going to go do this. Do you need anything? So I opened up the laptop and found out she was meeting somebody. A man. So when she came in, all made up, and I said, where you been? Who'd you go see? She knew she was busted. But then she fought like crazy, and I had a choice to either let this go or continue the fight. Right now, we have everything in a dream, but I couldn't even see that it was becoming very, very fast a nightmare. And not just a nightmare. Something that was trying to make me just completely run for the hills. Not knowing that she was running this whole time.
Not the whole time, just since we had been in that house.
We weren't even in the house yet, and she dreamed it and wanted it really bad. That's where the running began.
That's where the running began.
And we weren't in the house yet, so don't get it twisted.
So look, let's
look, I want to say this.
This is where it got. This is where we're not gonna end it. We're gonna go.
No, you
to the one part of the story, and then we're gonna end it. But this is what happened. 3 days before the sheriff come to set out our furniture, I finally had to tell him we're about to be evicted in 3 days. What I didn't tell him was that the checks were in his name, and that I had forged them. He knew that they were coming. We were up all night in bed, just a mess. We didn't know what to do. At that point in time, he didn't know what to do. And the sheriff showed up about 10:30 the next morning, and the owner had come in from out of the country, and she came in the door, and she was relentless. and
And I was going to be arrested.
my daughters were asleep. My son was asleep, and we had to wake everybody up. And they would not put our things in storage. They were putting them in the driveway. And it was a 4-bedroom house. It was a 5-bedroom house. Um, I could do nothing but cry. And she told Lee that,
Well, first she started attacking me.
yeah,
And I'm like, why is this woman attacking me like
right.
this? And as soon as she started talking and started telling me what was going on and was accusing me of all these things, I started to look at Sherry like she was the devil. And what I really started really thinking was everything that I did before coming back to bite me in the ass? All of the shit that I put everybody else through was now finding its way back to me, because somewhere in me, I was thinking, even with this awakening, even with me trying to be the best I could possibly be at all the goodness that I had found, that I wanted to heal everyone because I learned how to heal myself. I still had that in there. The ego was still in there. The thought process was still in there, that something bad was going to find me no matter what. Boy, was I right.
He she came in and she threatened to throw him in jail over these checks. And when he started explaining himself, and she realized that he had no idea, none, that she let him off the hook.
She showed me that, and I showed her my signatures, and I mean, we literally had to go through it. And then I looked at her and said, I looked directly at Sherry and said, "This is over.
Don't you ever, ever speak to me again." And he called his friend, and his friend showed up with a moving truck. And
not just a moving truck, a rig.
Right.
He showed up.
And they moved all of Lee's stuff out of the house while they were putting the rest of the stuff in the yard. And I had to take Ron's. I was taking Ron's truck.
No, you left with Casey and Ryan.
Yeah, and then we went to go get a storage, and my mom came. My middle daughter was there. I was a wreck. I was crying. I'd lost my home, and I'd lost Lee, and I'd lost my family, and I'd lost my dignity, and I was facing criminal charges, and it was horrible. It was a horrible day. Lee moved his stuff into the truck, and Lee pulled away and left everything sitting in the yard, and he instructed me to never speak to him again. So after the end, it was starting to storm. We put some things in the neighbors across the street. Ron helped as much as he could. My mom and me and my middle daughter and her boyfriend did most of the work, and we put things in storage up the street, and a lot of things got thrown away. And my mom put us in a motel for 2 nights. And after that, my daughter and her boyfriend went on their way, and I was essentially homeless.
And I moved in with Ron, Cameron, and Mo.
Yeah. He moved in to the finished basement at Mo's. And
where I had lived prior.
Where you had
before
lived
I had even moved.
Prior, but Ron now had the bedroom that you had, so you
Yep.
took the lower level.
So I was stuck in a place that I was devastated, hurt, and was in severe pain, because I was saying to myself, I came all this way. I changed everything that I am, and it didn't matter. I still had to pay for what I was experiencing, what I had done.
On the go ahead. I was just going to say, on the last load of stuff, the owner finally talked to me and said, I'm not going to press criminal charges, but what I am going to do is I'm going to file civil charges on this, and I'm going to make sure that somebody's held accountable for it. So
well, and here's the other part of that. I went back the next day and me, the owner, and another friend of hers, um, cleaned the house room by room, step by step, and made it look as brand new as we possibly could. And she was just amazed. And she said, "I don't even understand why you're here. You didn't do this." And I said, "I take full responsibility for everything I do." And she goes, "You deserve so much better than the way you were treated." And I told her, I said, "That's not going to change how much I'm in love with her now." And she just looked at me, and I'm telling you, she probably called me about 4 or 5 times throughout the next month just to say, "Are you doing okay? You're not back with her. You're not doing anything crazy. You." Because I told her, I said, "Whatever I need to do to make sure that you don't go after her, you don't do anything to her, you let me know." But I got it, but I didn't get it. I just didn't understand why she could put me in harm's way to hurt me like that.
I I essentially just lived in Ron's truck. I couldn't be in that apartment because Lee lived there and he didn't even want to look at me.
She couldn't be in there while I was in there. I made it very clear.
Yeah. So what would happen in the middle of the night is I would go park in a parking lot in Ron's truck somewhere, or over at the hospital and sleep. And in the morning when Lee would go to work and Ron would go to work, I would come in and sit and be with Cameron. And me and Cameron would go spend some time at the park or.
You talked to them a lot during.
Yeah.
But as far as me,
that was a really hard time for me.
I know.
I
know.
It was really hard because he wouldn't even look at me.
I look at you now.
I know. I was so full of remorse for what I had done. And there was no apology that was good enough for me, let alone him. And I was sleeping in this truck and I was having nightmares and I was fighting myself. And I really was fighting myself. It was me. I was fighting me. And I started to go inside myself. It was coming up on my birthday. And I found myself in this little pub behind the apartment complex where they lived. And it was so typical. I was sitting in this pub and drinking. It was dollar beer night every Tuesday. But I was there every night because I didn't have any other place to go. And I was there until 2:30 in the morning. And at 2:30, I would go find a place to park and until 7. And I befriended this barmaid, and we became such good friends. She's a listener, and I told her everything that I had done and how much I missed him, and it was just horrible. And it came up on my birthday, and I got an email from Lee, and all it said was "Happy Birthday." That's it. And I just said thank you. And for the next week or so, I just went into myself and wondered to myself, what did I do? Why did I sabotage everything that I wanted? Why did I do that? And I needed him. I needed to talk to him. I needed to tell him what I was going through. And I don't know what it was that I said, but I had said something to him, and he talked to me in the parking lot. You remember that? You talked to me in the parking lot outside of his condo for maybe 2 hours, and we took a walk. And he didn't, huh?
I didn't want it anymore.
No.
I didn't want any of it.
No, and he made it clear.
Yep.
And he said to me, I'll be your friend and I'll talk you through this, but we're done. And we'll end it there.
We'll talk to you guys soon. More to come.
Oh, yeah. Whole lot more.
Doesn't get prettier.
Don't.